Okay, we have about 45 people in the room. We have people from Seattle.
Yay!
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. Yeah. Wrong side of the state.
Wrong side of the state. We have people from China. We have people from India. We have people from Indiana. So
Go Cougars.
So we're pleased to have you join us today and be part of our meeting, Steve. So we're going to turn the mic over to you.
Okay. Everybody's got a copy of the book, right? How about that? Hey, okay, so here I am. I am out in Seattle. And you guys, hey, this is so exciting because I'm so happy to hear that you guys have been you've been reading my book and using it and incorporating some of the things that's going on inside of it. I want to, we're going to go through, I'm going to talk to you, so you're going to hear it from me about how to be uncopyable today. One thing I got to say before I kick off and go into the real visuals here is I want to show something I like. Let's see if I can find it here. I love this. I love this page on your website with all the people, and I don't know if how many people. Of course, this is not the whole website, but this this shows a lot of the staff, the employees at Orscheln there, and it's fun to go in there and hover over the pictures. I don't, if you're not familiar with it, you should go look at that. It is a lot of fun, and that's the type of thing that you can use to be uncopyable, obviously. So, that we could, you can just absolutely expand on that because those are clearly a lot of fun to do. And a lot of fun to share with clients or customers and clients, and I just love that type of stuff. And so I was very happy to see that when I went onto the website. Now the way we're doing this is you've turned off your microphone, so I can't hear you because otherwise we would have a lot of ambient noise going back and forth, which we want to avoid. But I think Aaron and Tiffany have another window opened up, or maybe not yet. But if they do need to reach me, I can be reached by the chat. And then, of course, when we get towards the end, I'm going to open it up for Q&A. Now, in the meantime, you can always tell them you got a question for me right now. Has to be answered right now. And go ahead and put that in the chat. I will see that, and I will stop whatever I'm doing, and we will all talk about that. So let's get rocking and rolling with that, and let's make this good for you guys. I want to tell you a story to start out with, a story that goes all the way back to August 16th, 2002, and the story is it's about my daughter. And my daughter was, her birthday is August 16th. And in 2002, she turned 10 years old. And before her birthday, my smoking hot wife, Kay, and I both asked her, what would you like to do on your 10th birthday? That's a big deal. And she, as our daughter Kelly, she said it was the big 1-0 that she was going to be approaching and going to be very excited about that. So we said, what would you like to do? And she said, gee, Dad, I'd like to go to Chicago because I would like to go to the American Girl doll store in Chicago. I'm a frequent flyer, got lots of miles. So we said, sure, why not? Let's go to Chicago and let's go to the American Girl store. Now, those of you that are familiar with what I'm talking about, you know the story that I'm about to share with you. The story of going to the American Girl store in Chicago, which is not a doll store. Regardless of what you might want to think, it is not a doll store. Now let me show you some pictures of what I'm talking about here. Now, when we arrived at the doll store, at the American Girl the American Girl place, in Chicago. It wasn't quite open yet, so we stood outside, a little bit chilly. But if you notice at the door, everybody to the right of the door are a bunch of my clients who I had taken there later on to visit. But when our daughter and Kay and I went, it was a similar scene. She wanted to get there right away, right when the store opened. And so we're there. Now take a look at the girls, the people who are waiting to the left of the door. Now, you don't see really any blue jeans over there. You don't see casual clothes. You see dresses, you see nice coats. They are dressed up because going to the American Girl place is a special occasion for young girls and their mothers and their grandmothers. And when we went inside the store, the first thing you would see is this. This is the first room that you would see. And you'll notice it's like a bookstore. Plenty of books on the shelves, things like that. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the American Girl doll, it's a little bit different now because it's a number of years. Obviously, it's 15 years later now. But back then, the American Girl was basically, there were 8 different dolls that were designed by the owner's name was Roland Pleasant. Well, she's still her name, but Roland Pleasant. And she decided that she was going to create a doll that would be historically accurate based on American history. And so she chose different eras of American history, and then she created a doll for each of those eras. So, like, for example, my daughter's doll, Felicity, was based on the American Revolution. So each of those sections in there, in that room that we're looking at, each of those sections represents one of the dolls. And the books are stories about the doll in those times, and they're written to be historically accurate, so that not only is she enjoying her doll and reading about her doll, but she's also reading about American history. So it's very, very cool. But now I want you to think about this, because when I went there with my daughter Kelly, my wife Kay, we went to this doll store and we spent 7 hours in this store. And think about that, 7 hours in a store that's about a doll, right? So we go in there. This is the first thing that you see in the experience. And notice something about this room. And I don't know if any of you have ever been to the doll store or not, but the American Girl store, but you'll notice that there are couches in there, and there are seating places all through the store. The seating places are for Dad and Grandpa and the brothers, because they know that we are not going to go out and look at the dolls. We're not going to look at the accessories. We are not interested in any of that stuff. And if we don't have somewhere to sit down, we're not going to be there for very long. So they understood that right away. And when you went in there, you were right there in the bookstore area. Now, if you'll notice in the back left, you'll see that picture of a young girl, a large picture of a young girl. Now that was the magazine cover photography studio, where our daughter could go back and she could get her picture taken with her doll, and then they would print it out as being on the cover of the American Girl magazine. This is the first room. Okay, another room that you would go into, and you'll notice in here that the dolls, now there are a few dolls over there on the left, examples of dolls over there on the left, standing up. But around the room, if you notice around the room, these are display cases. They're behind glass, and each display case represents one of the American Girl dolls. And in that display case are a whole bunch of different accessories and not clothing so much as like furniture and other things that might relate to that period of time. And you may also notice, hard to see, but in the window or right in front of the window, you'll see there's like this row of cards. And each of those cards represents the products that are inside that glass case. So you could just pick up a card and say, all right, I want to get that. And you would collect the cards. Of course, they did have one card that was on the far right side of each case. And that one card said, buy everything in this case for your daughter. So you could do that. You could go buy a lot of stuff. But the way they presented this, right, was not just as a doll that was stacked up and around the store. It was presented behind glass, so very high end stuff, right? And of course, like I said, there are couches still all over the place. Here's a picture of Kay and Kelly when she was 10 years old. When we were in there looking around. They also had a museum. And the museum represented the different eras of American history that the dolls were from, and each one was an actual. Each of these glass windows behind it was actual museum artifacts from that time in history. There was also a restaurant there that you could book a reservation. In fact, you basically had to book a reservation in order to eat there. When my daughter was turning 10, I very luckily contacted the restaurant, contacted the store about 4 months ahead of time, and wanted to know about what it took to book a reservation. And they said, you need to book it now because we are booked up 3 months in advance for our store. I mean, our restaurant. Now, here's the thing about the restaurant, right? It's in the American Girl place, right? So they have, you can have the doll sit there. Let's see if I've got a picture. I don't have a picture of it. But she is in her own high chair. They have high chairs for the doll. They have a menu just for the doll. And you have a nice time in there. Now, one of the other things that they do in that restaurant is they also have etiquette classes for young girls. So young girls can come to the American Girl place and learn etiquette, take classes that will help them as they're getting older. Then the other thing to think about is that American Girl dolls don't break. They get sick. So you'll notice they have a hospital for the American Girl doll. All right. And one of the other things about the hospital is that when you go over to the hospital, this is not the hospital here, but the hospital is over in this direction over here. When you go over there, they're dressed like doctors and nurses. And when the doll is admitted to the hospital, they go and they get a wheelchair that is designed for the doll. And they come out and they get the wheelchair, and they take the doll back, and it's going to be in the hospital for a while. The thing to think about now, I don't have other pictures of it, but they have a beauty salon, a hair salon. They even have a tattoo parlor for American Girls now. And the thing to think about is that I don't consider this to be a doll store, all right? Because it's not about the doll. It's about everything else that has to do with the doll. It has to do with the experience of the doll. It has to do of having the doll. It has to do with the experience of sharing with your friends. So my daughter, Kelly, would have parties with other friends who had American Girl dolls, and most of them were different types of dolls, obviously. So they would share stories about their doll and the historical stories about their doll and the era that they were from. Now, if you go to the website or and you go do some searching, you can find out what the American Girl branding promise is. And here's what it is. At American Girl, we celebrate girls and all that they can be. It's why we develop products and experiences that help girls grow up in a wholesome way, while encouraging them to enjoy childhood through fun and enchanting play. This is what I call developing attachment. I talked about this in the book, that in order for us to become really, really uncopyable, we need to reach a point of where our customers are attached to us in more ways than they're just used to doing business with us, or they buy us because they've been doing that for a while or something like that. We don't want to have any opportunity for our customers to have a reason to leave us. And we don't want, like I was on a radio interview earlier this morning, and they made the comment about, companies are always complaining that when the new shiny object comes out, that customers will leave and go to the shiny object. They'll leave what they're currently buying or currently using, and they'll go to the shiny object. And why is that? Well, number one, it's because the people that your customers don't see any difference between you and what else is out there. So when they see something that might be a little bit different or it's got a little shininess to it, then they bolt. Or you're not delivering anything to them that is really uniquely different from anybody else or uniquely valuable to anybody else. So what you want to do is you want to develop this attachment with them to where in their minds, they're actually thinking, gee, I don't want to give this up. When they have an opportunity, when when a competitor comes in and offers them even low balls, they say to themselves, you know what? The value of what I'm getting from my current supplier, the value I'm getting from Orscheln, is just too high. It's just too high. I'm not willing to give that up to switch to somebody else. And that's the attachment that we're trying to get. So the question you want to ask yourself is the same question that customers and prospects are asking all the time. And I say customers ask this question all the time because even when they are thinking in terms of new orders or taking a look at possibly a new product that you're bringing to the market or anything that's similar to that, they're asking the question, why should I buy from Orscheln? Why should I buy from Orscheln versus every other option available, including doing nothing or whatever I'm already doing? Now they might already be buying from you, but then they're gonna continue to ask the question, why should I continue to buy from you? But when you're talking to new prospects, it's especially, the key things here are to understand they're asking versus every other option available. Okay. So, and I'm sure you all already understand this. It's important for us to believe, in our hearts that Orscheln is different, better, unique, has more value than anybody else. That's really, really important. But what we think just doesn't matter. I mean, our enthusiasm can help a little bit, but enthusiasm only takes us just so far. Ultimately, we have to give them a better reason. So the way I look at it is this, is that when the lightning bolt, this is the way I think in terms of sales and marketing, is that a lot of times we don't know when they're going to be ready to buy. We have no control over that. We don't know when a new prospect might be thinking about, might all of a sudden have a need, or they might have a new project, or they might have something came up where they all of a sudden are thinking, I need this. And the way I describe it is I say that when that lightning bolt comes out of the sky and it strikes that prospect or even that current customer in the head, and they go, oh man, I need this, or I need help with this. Do they think of Orscheln, first? Do they think of Orscheln second? Do they think of Orscheln at all? At all. Now, my objective with all of my prospects and all of my clients is that I want to be the only one that they think of. So that's, you see, the attachment starts long before the order is written. You have to you have to be thinking in terms of, how do I create an attachment with people, even if they haven't bought from me, right? How do I do that so that they see the value in advance? A way to look at this is that I look at competition out there, common, typical competition in any industry, any market, as being, it's like a box that if I were to say, ask you to think about roller coasters, well, you would, some of you might think about some really amazing roller coasters at Six Flags, or at in Japan, or some of the other really, really big amusement parks across the United States. Really high, screaming, fast, terrifying, gut churning, loop-de-loop roller coasters. You might be thinking about those. Not too many people, when they think about roller coasters, think about Space Mountain at Disney World, Disneyland. I think I don't know if there's one at the other properties, but Space Mountain, that all it is a roller coaster. It's just a roller coaster that is wrapped in a very unique, enjoyable experience. And for roller coaster aficionados, Space Mountain isn't even a really good roller coaster itself. But people, it is probably the number one most ridden roller coaster in the world. Now, what's the difference here? Well, it's, I could also say it's like the American Girl, that there are, the industry of dolls, for example. When you think of dolls, maybe not you or me, but I suspect that there's a lot of girls out there who, when they think of dolls, they might think of American Girl, but they can also think of Barbie or Bratz, or I don't know, whatever some of the other dolls are. And everything about those dolls is in this box, because the way that these dolls are marketed, the way they are introduced and communicated to the world, is pretty similar. It's pretty similar. Like, when I talk about American Girl, I'm talking about the American Girl place and the story behind each of the dolls. A very different situation than if you were to say, tell me about Barbie. Well, Barbie doesn't have a story. Barbie, probably the most popular, longest living doll in the United States, but it's not as popular as it used to be, because it's in a box with dolls. When you think about dolls, you probably think about Barbie. But what American Girl did that is very, very smart is they decided to not compete within the same framework as everybody else. Everybody is in that box, and they're all, and I call it playground shouting. We're all basically trying to shout louder than the competition. Buy us, we're better. We have a better product. Our product is highest quality. We have the best customer service, fair prices. And then the people across, the competition across the street is saying, buy our products. We have better quality. We have the best customer service, and we have the fairest prices. So American Girl said, nope, we're not going to compete in that box. We're going to create our own box. We're going to build our own box. We're going to put everything that we want to put into that box. And so now they've put the restaurant, they've put the storyline, the historical aspect added to the doll. They've put in the parlors, right? The hair parlors, all of that stuff has been added in to create a new world that the girls think about. And that's in a new box. So American Girl doesn't really compete with regular dolls. And what this is this becomes a monopoly. All right. Now, remember what I said. I said that that their mission, their promise to us is we celebrate girls, all they can be. We develop product service that help girls grow up in a wholesome way. Now, here's the thing. They do not say, we sell the highest quality dolls at reasonable prices, backed by the best customer service, giving young girls, an enjoyable experience. They do not say that. How many companies, how many of us in sales and marketing are guilty of saying something just like this to the marketplace, to our customers, to our prospects? And then they're going to hear the same thing spit out by the competition. Remember, they did not say that. This is what they said. So what did American Doll do? I was talking to one of the managers at the American Girl Place in Chicago one time, and I said, can you boil this down into one phrase for me? Or can you boil it down to what this all means? She said, yeah, it's very simple. We put vitamins in the cake. The cake being a doll. And now what they've done is they've added vitamins, especially the historical aspect of the doll and all the things that go along with it that are historically accurate. Those things add vitamins in the cake. Now, why would this be important? Well, who buys the doll? Well, the girls want the doll, right? They want the doll. The historical stuff and everything that goes along with that, that's all very cool for the young girls, but it's really cool to the parents. It's really cool to the grandparents because they go, oh, not only am I buying a doll for my daughter, but she's learning about American history. So that's putting vitamins in the cake. See, what can we embed into the experience that we are delivering to our customers that is difficult, if not impossible, to copy from by the competition? Another thing to think about from the uncopyable side is that it's not just that they can't copy us, it's that they won't copy us. And that oftentimes is something that companies overlook, is they don't really think in terms of that, oh, the competition, they have no interest in doing that. So let's go do that, right? I'll give you an example in a little bit. So that's that's American Girl. The monopoly, they are a monopoly in the mind of the little girl. So the question is, how do we make Orscheln uncopyable? How do we make Orscheln a monopoly in the mind of your customers and your prospects? Your customers, so that they stick with you forever. Your prospects, and then they come into you. So what can go into your box? Now, in the book, I talk about 3 uncopyable strategies. I want to buzz through these and talk a little bit about these right now. And while I'm doing this, I want to be sharing tools. And talk a little bit more about the tools, some of them in the book, but some that I just want to give you my perspective talking about each one of these. So the first strategy being the uncopyable branding strategy. Branding is a fuzzy word. It's a very, very fuzzy word. You say people are interested in branding, or companies want to do branding. You have to ask them, what is it you're really talking about? What is it you mean by branding? Because in my book, there are 3 types of branding. One, that are 2 of them are common. One of them is not so common. The common ones, symbols and tools. The uncommon one is the branding promise, the branding proposition that we're going to send out to the marketplace. The common ones, they're easy to do. They're easy to do. The uncommon one, not so easy. And so let's talk a little bit about the brand symbols first, just to see what I'm talking about. Here's a whole bunch of well-known brands. So, a lot of these are American brands, so I apologize to the international visitors, but there are a lot of them in here that are very international as well. Now, in the U.S. and across the U.S., these are very common brands. People are aware of these, right? I'm aware of all of these brands, but there's something wrong with that. You see, you can't spend eyeballs, right? Forget about awareness. we don't want to be aware. We don't want our customers to be aware of us, because awareness to me is just not good enough. It's just not good enough. See, if I look at this group here again, I'm aware of all of these brands, but there's a whole bunch of them on here that I have never purchased from, I've never given money to, probably never will give money to, but I'm very aware of them. So awareness, like I say, you can't spend eyeballs. Or like I like to say is that awareness without persuasion is a mistake of inexperienced, uneducated, and bad marketers. Or another way of putting it is it's sort of like prescription before diagnosis. It's like going to a doctor and they write you a prescription before they go through a diagnosis. That's malpractice. And to me, that's kind of the same thing as awareness. Awareness without persuasion is essentially, malpractice. So while the branding logo is cool, and it's nice to have and you want to use it, you want to make sure that it represents something. So it has to be bigger than life. It has to be bigger than just this nicely designed logo. All right. Now the tools that are also part of the branding in most companies, are the common stuff. It's for the most part, it's the common stuff. So like, for example, if we look at Harley Davidson, the tools for the Harley Davidson, we know that this is the logo that's over here, right? We know that's the logo, but then this is the website. So everybody's got to have a website. And Orscheln has a great website. That's no kidding. I was very impressed with the website. Great website. But the website is one of the tools. Other tools are your business cards. Are you in retail? Are you retail? So you need stores. Do you have letterhead? Things like that. This is all these are the tools. And yeah, we have to have these tools. No question about it. But we can't stop there, because now because what we want to really get into is the branding proposition. Because, what is the promise that we are delivering to our marketplace? And the way I describe the branding proposition is like this. The branding proposition goes beyond just uniquely identifying your products and services. It makes a clearly stated promise as to how you differentiate yourself from your competitors, and it resonates with the exact right target market. Now, this is important because, like I said earlier, for years and still used regularly, and here's something that I would suggest that you do. I do this all the time. When I'm giving a speech somewhere, like for example, I just got hired. I'm going to be giving a keynote speech for the American Bus Association in January. And part of my research for going in there is I am studying people who are going to be are going to be in the audience. And so like Greyhound Bus, for example, in the United States, I'll go to their website. And the thing is that when I go to their website, what do they tell me? They tell me that they have the nicest buses. The buses are clean. They're the most current buses. They have the best customer service. People are friendly, and all this sort of stuff. If I go look at when I go look at all the other buses, they're going to say the same thing. They're going to say exactly the same thing. And so that's why it's so important that it's a clearly stated promise as to how you differentiate yourself. Like, for example, saying that you have the best customer service, what does that mean? What does that mean? That is what is known as a vague generality, because what you might think the best customer service is, your prospects and customers, they might have a different definition. So it has to be clear, it has to be meaningfully specific. See, Harley Davidson, I was watching an interview with a Harley executive in Milwaukee one time when they were having a big their big reunion. They had 100,000 Harleys in town, and interviewer was asking about, all these Harley owners that are in black leather and they've got bandanas and they've got tattoos and they just look, they look like they're lawbreakers, right? And the executive laughed. And here's what he said. He said, what we sell is the ability for a 43-year-old accountant to dress in black leather, ride in small towns, and have people be afraid of him, okay, or her. They don't say we sell high quality motorcycles with the best customer service for, reasonable prices. No, they don't say that stuff. All right. This is the promise that they're making. And your promise also makes you memorable. So, what are some of the things you can do? Well, one of the things, and I don't know what Orscheln's guarantee is, but one of the things you can do is offer a big guarantee. Nordstrom, let me go back. Nordstrom department stores in the U.S. Are famous for two things. They are famous for their customer service. They're well known for that, and they're well known for their 100, their money back guarantee. Completely satisfied. Return your product, and we'll give you your money back. And the way these are reinforced in the world and to consumers are through stories. When you hear stories of Nordstrom's world-class customer service, you hear specific stories of how they did things that were above and beyond anybody else, or even just good customer service, but they were world-class. The most famous story of all was that a man in Anchorage, Alaska, took 4 tires back to the Nordstrom department store in Anchorage, Alaska, and asked for his money back. Nordstrom has never sold tires. They didn't sell tires in anywhere. They've never sold tires anywhere. But the story is that he asked for his money back, and the general manager of the store gave him his money back because they offered this guarantee. Now, sounds pretty wild, doesn't it? Yes, it does sound pretty wild. And in fact, a number of years ago, I was doing some consulting for Nordstrom, and I was working directly with Jim Nordstrom, the president at the time, and I couldn't resist. I had to ask him, is this true? Is this true? Did you really give money back for, a set of tires? And he said, and he looked at me and he smiled and he said, well, I wasn't there when it happened, so I can't say for sure. Doesn't deny it, doesn't admit it, but it's a myth. And it still gets told over and over again as an example of extremely great, awesome customer service and money back guarantees, stuff like that. If you read, you'll hear other speakers talking about that. They won't tell you that Nordstrom actually doesn't say that it's true. So you can offer a big guarantee. You can use a word or a phrase that represents who you are, who Orscheln is, or even who you are personally with your customers. Like Volvo, the word is safety. We all know that, right? When you think of Volvo, you think safety. If you ask young people, young families, if they're going to go out and buy a car for their family, and they'll say yeah, and we're really thinking about safety as being really, really important, so obviously we're going to look at Volvo, right? Yeah, Volvo owns that word. Other manufacturers can talk about how safe their cars and trucks are, but they can't own the word safety. One client of mine in the manufacturing world, also, small business, little town called Sun River, Oregon, Central Oregon, and they build these measurement collection, these gauges to collect measure. I don't know what they do. They collect measurement, and but they compete against big companies. And so we were talking about, well, what kind of promise can you make to your base that will tell them this is exactly what you are, right? And so they took this and they said, okay, we are measurement collection specialists. In other words, that's it. They don't do anything else. All of their big competitors do all kinds of other stuff. But they say, no, we are measurement collection specialists, and we will connect any gauge into any software. That's a big promise that they make to the marketplace. And it works really, really well for them. You know, color, to me, is a very powerful branding tool. Because the idea is that what we want to do, again, is we want to embed in people's minds not just our name, but what we represent to them. And color can really help do that a lot. And so, you'll know there are companies out there that, like Coca-Cola, their color is red. The first time I was working with Coca-Cola, I was at their headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was getting ready to give a presentation. This is long before computers and laptops and digital presentation stuff like that. I was using an overhead projector, and I had visuals that were on, on transparencies that were printed out and stuff. But as I was kind of going through those a couple hours before the meeting, I had them up on the screen, and a gentleman who was in the room setting up the room, he takes a look up there and he notices that I've got that all of my copy is in blue, right? And he goes, you're going to need to change that. And I said, why? And he said, blue is Pepsi Cola. Blue is Pepsi. We are not blue. You have to change that color. Otherwise, people are going to be very unhappy with you. And I had to go out and find somebody in Coca-Cola who would let me use their computer and go print new transparencies and change the color to black, all sorts of stuff. Very interesting experience to learn that. But they to them, red is everything. And now they try to attach red to enjoy life, zest for life and things like that. Are they successful at it? I don't know. I think they're pretty good at it. But they definitely want red. Starbucks, their color is green. Everything we see, they really slam that green all over the place. IBM, for many, many years, when IBM was really the Goliath, the gorilla of the tech world, IBM Blue was construed with quality and trust and all that stuff. And so every company on the planet decided, we have to use blue. We have to use blue. And if you've ever been to a manufacturing show, which I know a lot of you have been to those shows, or a tech show at all, when you go in there, blue is the predominant color, because that's what they all do. That's why, I'll tell you what, that's why I love about it's one of the things I love about the Orscheln logo, is that if I were you guys, I would own red in my industry. I would own it in the controls industry. I would kill my clients with red in the industry. See, and then another tool that I personally love to do, like when I talk about color, that we want our logo and our color, our logo design and our color, everything that we represent, we want it to remind people of the promise that we're making to them. We want them to think about us when they see stuff. So because what we want to do is we want to anchor in their mind. So because I don't want to take the chance that lightning bolt's going to come out of the sky, hit them in the head, and they don't remember me. See, I want them to remember me, and I want them to remember you by we can use anchors and we can use triggers. We can send them things that anchor our promise in their mind, and we can provide them with triggers that when they see it, it triggers, they think about us. So, for example, my color is orange. This should be orange. I can't tell if it's orange. Sometimes the cameras change it a little bit, but trust me, it's orange. Whenever I'm working, I'm wearing orange. When I get gifts for clients, when I do stuff, it's orange. guess, you've all got my book. It's orange, right? Because orange represents uncopyable. That's what I tell everybody. Orange represents uncopyable. It represents separating yourself from the competition. Luckily for me, my clients, it also makes them think of Steve Miller. And I've got clients who tell me that whenever they see the color orange, they think of me. So I'm at the top of their mind a lot. And that's what you want to be, is you want to be at the top of their mind. Something else that I do with my clients to stay top. Let me go back to that. See, we can do, fun little stuff, tchotchkes, trinkets, interesting things to send out. People love to get my orange M&Ms that I'll send them out. Now you can do M&Ms with messages on them. It's not that expensive. I'll find, whenever I find something that's orange, I will try to get a whole bunch and send them out to my clients. The other day I was on the phone. I was talking with the CEO of a company called Just Born Candy, out of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And, for those of you that don't know, Just Born Candy makes Peeps. I don't know how popular they are, if they are at all outside of the United States. In the U.S., Peeps are very, very popular, especially around Easter. Okay, and that company is definitely uncopyable because of Peeps and what they've done with Peeps, right? So I was on the website after he and I talked, and I found. Let's see if I can do this. Look at that. Okay, look at that. I found Peeps socks that are orange. So I bought them, and now I'm going to get them, and I'm going to send them out to all my clients, right? See, that's fun stuff. That's fun stuff. But what I also look for are personal things. What I get to know my clients as best as I possibly can. I'm sure that most of you do this too. I'm sure that you already do this, and I'm not telling you anything that you're probably not already doing, but if you're not, start doing this. So like, for example, I will look for things that are personal to my clients, that are important to them or interesting to them. And then I put it in my mind. I have it written down, and I'm always on the alert looking for things that I can do for them. So I've got, I've got one big client who loves to grow roses. So I'll tell you what, when I see books or articles on that, I get them, I send them to him, right? I had another client who mentioned to me that his kids always wanted to go to the circus, but had never gone to the circus. They lived in Connecticut, which wasn't far away from New York. And so I just happened, radar up. I saw that the circus, which doesn't exist anymore, right? It's gone. But this is a few years ago. I saw that the circus was coming to Madison Square Garden. I got them tickets to go to the circus, and I threw in something a little bit special for them. I actually got them a little special thing where the kids were invited to come down onto the floor and ride in one of those cars that went around the track around the three rings, and so they got to do that. And the kids loved that. I have another client of mine who turns out their kid loves baseball, and especially loves the Los Angeles Dodgers. And so I was able to secure an autographed baseball from Tommy Lasorda, the famous manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers, for them. Now, this stuff, obviously this is stuff that you kind of have to work at this, right? And there might be an investment here, but it depends on the client, right? Depends on the client. And now I understand sometimes maybe you can't do that either. Maybe the company doesn't allow that. I have a lot of clients who deal with customers who cannot accept these types of gifts. So what else can you do? Well, let me show you something. I learned this lesson the hard way. Many years ago, I was working for, I was the vice president of international sales and marketing for a Japanese toy company. And I was the highest ranking non-Japanese person in it. And so the president came to me one day and he said, "Hey, I want to go around the world and visit all of our distributors, our biggest customers, our agents, our reps. I want to visit everybody." And so he and I literally went out, and on a 6-week trip, we flew around the world and visited everybody. Now, at everybody we visited, this is pre-computer, this a long time ago, he had his little camera, and he would ask me to take a picture of them with that person. And I'm going to tell you, I thought it was stupid. I thought it was the dumbest thing I ever heard. And after we got done with the trip, we went back, and he had the pictures developed. He put them in little small frames, and he sent them out with a note to everybody. Now, I think sending handwritten notes is a great idea. At that time, I thought, this is dumb, sending out these pictures. What are they going to do with these pictures? Well, on my next trip going out to visit these people on my own, I would show up at their offices, and these darn framed pictures were up on the wall, or they were on a shelf somewhere in their office. And I would say, "Gosh, that's amazing. You put the picture up there." And he goes, "Yeah." They would all say, he or she would say, "Yeah, I thought it was really nice of him to take that picture. And so I really like it. And I put it up." So now, as often as I can, whenever I'm with people, I want to take a picture with them. And I will, if I don't frame it and send it to them, what I'll do is I'll put it on the cover of a greeting card, which you can do nowadays. And I will send them a greeting card saying, "Great to meet you. Thanks a lot for the time together." And when we're doing something, and I will go into their offices, and that greeting card will be sitting on a shelf somewhere. So people love that stuff. And then of course you also get those opportunities where you get to take some fun pictures with your clients. So like, here's a group of my clients, and they're all, they've all got my book. And of course I got this joker over here who thought he'd be funny. And, but that card, I had this made into a card for them, and I sent them all a copy of the card, and they all love it. And of course he has the card right at the top of his desk. And you can do that stuff, right? And then when you send things to people, the other thing I do, and I encourage you to do, is Orscheln should have red envelopes. Everybody should, send your letters, send your correspondence, red boxes, send them to them in these things, because then every time, when I send stuff out in my orange envelope, people say, when that orange envelope lands on my desk, I know it's from Steve. I know it's from Steve. And they love that, and they will open it. Think about that. Another thing to do for people, and I think this is huge, is when I go visit people, and I encourage you to do the same thing. Look at their bookshelf. What books are on their bookshelf? Ask them what their favorite book is, and then ask them who their favorite author is. And then make a note of this stuff, and then you can keep an eye out for books that they might like. And they love it when you send them books, and they really, really appreciate it, because you're doing something personal. And so what you're doing now, you're getting that attachment with them, right? You're getting that attachment where they feel like they're getting things with you. There's a whole bunch of different types of anchors and triggers that you can use with your clients. And they all work. They're all great to use. But there are rules about anchors and triggers. Okay, there are rules about them, and the rules they're pretty simple. They must be intentionally congruent with the promise that you are making to people. It can't be something that is just completely disconnected. With that, like for example, keychains. I use keychains a lot as an example. I'll give you another example here in a second too. But keychains, people seem to love to give out keychains. Well, what does that have to do with the promise that I'm making to people? All right. I was at a trade show one time in Las Vegas, and there was a guy standing in a booth, and he was giving out these little fuzzy birds that had their name on somewhere on the birds that had an adhesive thing at the bottom. He would take the adhesive thing off and he would just stick it on people's shoulders as they were walking by. You know, people would have nice suits on and he's sticking this fuzzy bird on there, and he thinks he's being effective. I said, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm passing these out. I said, really? How's the show going for you? This is great. I've probably given away 3,000 of these fuzzy birds. No, that doesn't have anything to do with your company. All right. It has to make sense to your marketplace because everything walks the talk. Everything walks the talk. And it must be different. Must be different. That's the big one, right? You're not going to be seen as unique if you aren't unique. Okay. So that stuff is so cool, using those types of tools. I love using that stuff. Let's talk about the innovation strategy, stealing genius, which, you know, is in my book. It's a big part of my book. I love to steal genius. I love to steal genius. Let me give you some examples of what I'm talking about. You know, if you read the book, then you know what I mean by stealing genius is that we are going out and looking for new ideas from companies, organizations, people, experiences, anything that is not related to our world. So I would be going out, and that's why I'm using things like American Girl, Harley Davidson, you know, as Disneyland, Volvo as examples for you. Well, maybe Volvo's not an example for you, but you know, in the controls world, you know what everybody else is doing. Everybody else is doing stuff. You're not going to get any new ideas from them. All right. You're only going to get new ideas from aliens. You got to go study aliens, steal their genius. Let me tell you, you know, I talked about this in the book, but I think this is so important to remember. Okay. The McDonald's drive-throughs that now represent over 55% of their annual revenues, you know, the idea came when the manager of the Fort Huachuca McDonald's was driving through his bank, going through the drive-through. That's where he came. He said, oh my gosh, you know, if I can pass cash and checks through that slot to the teller inside, I can do that with food. That's an alien experience. They're stealing genius from an alien. Spin brush, which is very, very popular. And I think Oral Care has one similar to it like this. Okay, the spin brush came from the candy world. There's a candy called the Spin Pop, and kids love it because, you know, you pull off that Tigger. You pull Tigger off the top there. That's the name of you know, this tiger here, and you pull that off and there's a lollipop inside, and you push the button and it spins around. And that same mechanism was used to create the spin brush. Stealing genius. My favorite example of all, which I talked about, the Southwest Airlines. Herb Kelleher recognized that the only time he was making money was when the airplanes were in the air. So he said, I got to find out how to get them off the ground, you know, because I don't want them sitting on the ground for an hour in between flights. So he went out and he found the NASCAR pit crews. He could have gone to any professional automobile racing, truck racing, F1, doesn't matter. He could have and studied the pit crews, because their job, you know, the car can't win if it's not on the track. And so their job is to get that car, to take care of that car as quickly as possible. And so they learned from NASCAR pit crews how to turn airplanes faster. And so nowadays, Southwest Airlines, you know, they're known for turning their planes in like 20 minutes or so, something like that. So which makes them helps them be very, very profitable. Think about the best customer service. Can you get, you know, if you want to tell people that you offer the best customer service, like I said earlier, that's a vague generality. You can't just say to people, we're going to offer you the best customer service, because they're going to yawn. They're going to go, okay, tell me something that, you know, give me something that I can hang my hat on. Well, remember when I said that one of the things we all say is we all say we offer the best customer service, but when you're offering a promise to people, it has to be specific. You have to tell them specifically what you're going to do, and you have to tell them how you're going to do it. Well, I had an experience recently with Apple. I guess you can't call them Apple Computer anymore, but Apple customer service. I had an issue with my desktop, and so I called in to Apple customer service, and a nice gentleman answers the phone. He listens to my problem and my issues, and then he does something interesting. He says to me, he says, Steve, I'm making up a name here. He says, my name is John Doe. Write that down. He said, because I am going to help you until there is a solution to the problem for you. He said, I am now your contact at Apple. Here is my phone number. It's my direct line. Write this down. Now, here's what I'm going to do. And he tells me specifically step by step what he's going to do. And then he says, at each step, when something is being done, I will email you and give you an update. However, if at any time you feel like, you haven't heard from me in a bit, or you're eager to hear something, he said, call me on my direct line and I will help you. Now that is world-class customer service. That's world-class customer service. But because what they do is, now when you call in, somebody owns the problem. Somebody owns the problem. This is not really anything new in the customer service world, but it's not used very much in the customer service world. And you can use this in any type of situation that enables you to connect with people. If you're thinking customer service, if I'm going to steal, I'm going to steal a customer service idea here from Apple. Other companies that are well known for their customer service, Zappos.com, very well known for their customer service. I'm going to study them. I'm going to see what I can steal and take back if I want to use customer service. FedEx, the interview I was on this morning, they brought up some examples of FedEx stories that showed the world-class customer service that FedEx has going on that promises to its customers and has going. Nordstrom is famous for world-class customer service. And I told the story of the 4 tires. But here's one of the things about customer service. Number one is that what you need to be specific about what great customer service means to your customers. What does it mean? What are you going to deliver to them? And then 2, when you do stuff and you do things that are maybe above and beyond, make them into stories. Share them with your other customers. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to brag a little bit. Is to say to somebody, boy, what's his name down the road? You might not know him, but he had an issue. He had this problem, and here's how I helped him solve that problem. And so anything you can do to publicize that stuff is awesome. It's awesome. So you want to be able to study aliens, and I'm using the customer service one as an example. Then you can go out and you can study aliens for other reasons too, and steal their genius and bring them back. Because then you step right into what the third strategy, which is the uncopyable experience strategy. And the thing to remember is that a richly imprinted experience wants to be repeated. A richly imprinted experience wants to be repeated. It wants to be shared. People talk to their friends and their peers about a richly imprinted experience. And they want to remember it. It needs to be memorable. Now, how do we figure out where to touch our customers? Where can we find these opportunities to deliver an experience that is above and beyond what they already get? One exercise I like to take my clients through is mapping the experience. And some of you might be familiar with this. But basically mapping the experience is sitting down and going through, and you can do it together, you can do it by yourself, but starting from literally the moment that they might hear about you is to go through what are the steps that that prospect goes through to become a customer, and then once they're a customer, what are the steps that they go through, in the relationship building process, and then beyond. So, like, for example, and I spoke at the Work Truck Show this past year about my book Uncopyable, and so with them I used the example of, well, what if I were the show? What if I were the people who own and run the Work Truck Show, and I want to figure out a way to impact the experience of the people who are coming to the Work Truck Show so that they will find it extremely valuable. They will want to come back again next year, and they'll tell their friends. So what I'm going to do, so I said, okay, I'm going to go through what happens to an attendee who is coming to, going to Indianapolis to the Work Truck Show. And so I live in Seattle. So I said, so we'll start with that. Really, my experience with the Work Truck Show starts in Seattle, because I'm thinking I'm going to the airport. I'm going to get on an airplane. I'm going to the Work Truck Show. So it's all part of my experience. So my entire experience might go something like this. I check in at Seattle Airport. I then have to go through the security lines. Then I have to go to the gate or somewhere else. I have to wait to then get on board, stand in line with everybody. I have to fight for the armrest with somebody, sitting next to me. Then I have to ride to the hotel. When I get off the plane, I have to find a taxi or a bus or or a shuttle or something like that. How am I going to get there? I have to then check in to the hotel. Sometimes I have to stand in line to check into the hotel. Then maybe I got to go find something to eat for that night. Then I got to go back. I get to sleep in a bed that 1,000 other people have slept in. And then I'm going to get up in the morning, go through my morning routine, and then I'm going to I'm going to go have breakfast somewhere, find that. Then I'm going to go to the Indianapolis Convention Center. Most of the hotels are right there downtown. I'm going to walk over to the convention center. Some places you need to take a bus to get there. But regardless, I'm going to get to the Work Truck Show at the convention center. I need to go in and I need to register. Maybe I'm already registered, but I've got to go pick up, my badge, or I've got to pick up the badge holder or something. I'm going to look through the schedule, sit down and look through the schedule. I'm going to plan out my day or my couple of days there before I start working. I'm going to outline some of the seminars, go to the seminars I'm going to go see. Then I'm going to go into the expo hall, visit the trade show, go visit the exhibitors. Then might do some networking with people, maybe at night. Who knows, right? And then rinse, repeat the next day, and then fly home. So now, if I am the National Truck Equipment Association who owns the Work Truck Show, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to say, okay, which steps in here, which part of this, this map of this experience can I impact? And they might say, okay, these are the parts that I can impact my prospective, my customers, right? My attendees for the event. And so I'll look at that and I'll say, all right, you know what? When people have gone through all of this here, to get to here, is there something I can do that kind of makes it easier for them, or it kind of shifts from the hassle of travel to, oh, I'm now in the Work Truck Show. And, can I do things there? When they walk in, can I offer them a bottle of water? Can I, can I present that, can I give them helpful directions? Can I do it in a unique way that's fun, that connects with the industry? So maybe there are Rosies, like Rosie the Riveter, that are around the convention center that are going to be helpful, and they're young and they're pretty and they're enjoyable to talk to, and they're going to help me, right? So you see, I'm looking for each one of these things. How can I make the registration process a better experience for them? How can I make the seminars a better experience? How can I make the expo hall a better experience? Because those are the things that I have control over. And how do I do that in a way that can be unique and get them to think about it, want to do it again, and talk about it with their friends? Example. I was staying at a hotel, the Muse Hotel in Manhattan, in downtown New York City, about a block away from Times Square. I went there, and it's a small boutique hotel. I checked in, but I had checked out the hotel before I got there. I thought, okay, I wonder what their promise is that they're making to me. And their promise was, our thinking caps are always on as we imagine ways to keep things fresh and welcoming for you. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Their thinking caps are always on as we imagine ways to keep things fresh and welcoming for you. And I thought, how are they going to deliver on this? How are they going to, what are they going to be able to do specifically that delivers on this promise? And, whoops, let me go back. Well, no, it doesn't matter. I was leaving in the morning to go to an all-day meeting. I was going to be gone all day. I was going to be going out to dinner that night, and get back probably late at night. And I'm brushing my teeth. And as I was brushing my teeth, I ran out. I used the end of my toothpaste, right? Squeezed it all out. I was done with the toothpaste. Made a mental note. I need to go find toothpaste before the end of the day. So I leave. I'm gone all day. I come back, and as I walk into my room, I start thinking, oh, rats, I forgot to go get toothpaste. So I thought, oh, I'll just drop my briefcase off, and then I'll head out and see if I can find some. Now, this is late. This is like 10:30 at night or something like that. And as I walk by the bathroom, I notice on the counter is a new tube of toothpaste with a note from the housekeeper. And she says, "Dear Mr. Miller, I noticed that you were out of toothpaste. I didn't want you to worry, so I took the liberty of leaving another tube for you. I hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much." Our thinking caps are always on. So we imagine ways to keep things fresh and welcoming for you. This was a specific example of doing what they promised. You think about that. Something so simple and yet so meaningful and so huge. You want to also be thinking in terms of being the club that all your moose, I talk about the moose in the book, about your moose. How can you be in the, how can you have a club of people to where they want to be a member of your club? And so examples that you can steal, right? Maker's Mark is a bourbon made out of Kentucky. And Maker's Mark has what they call their ambassador program. And if you're a fan of Maker's Mark, you can join the ambassador program and you get stuff. You're now a member, you're now one of their ambassadors. And you get cool things from them. And they send out stuff because you're part of the club. And they have events every year at their facility in Loretto, Kentucky. And you can go there. Last time I talked to the CEO of Maker's Mark, he said that they were going to be having a festival, a concert music festival at the property, and they expected over 5,000 of the ambassadors to come and be a part of it. So ambassadors become a part of the community, much like the Harley Davidson people become part of the community. For those of us that grew up with Disney, and I don't know if the Mouseketeers were big outside of the United States or not, but in the U.S., growing up in the 60s, and even recently, if you're a kid, growing up, you can join the Mouseketeers. But as we got older, the Mouseketeers don't count anymore, right? But if you're a big Disney fan, still a big Disney fan, well, then what does Disney want to do to keep you as a fan, to keep you locked in to that Disney magic? Well, you can join the D23 official Disney fan club. It's for the adults. And not only do you get, and when you join, you get stuff in the mail from them, fun stuff. You get a magazine from them that comes, 3 or 4 times a year. And then they also have you notice here, D23 Expo. This picture was taken in 2015, but next year, 2018, the D23 Expo is going to be in Tokyo, Japan. So it's big. And I think last year they had something like 20,000 of their D23 fans there. We're all members of frequent prisoner programs for airlines. I'm in the Advantage frequent prisoner program, and we get special stuff, right? If you're platinum or executive platinum, you get special stuff. You get upgraded. You get to go to first class. You get to get in line, get in earlier. And you look at all the other, you look at all the common folk standing there watching you, and you're just like going, "That's me getting on before you." So, these are clubs. The TED conference, the world famous TED conference, is a very, very tight club based on not just the speeches that are given there, but primarily because of the people that are there. So if you have the great luck of being able to attend the main TED conference, you're going to go there and you're going to have a chance to talk to Jeff Bezos, to Peter Gabriel, to Ariana Huffington, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons. You might even get a chance to talk to Cameron Diaz and Steve Miller. I always say it's 999 of the most famous, richest, smartest, coolest people in the world, and Steve. So, look for ways to create a club. And a way to do that is you just think in terms of what proprietary experience or information or innovation can you create that puts golden handcuffs on your customers? That's the attachment that I'm always talking about. What promise can you give me to change my current behavior? If you're looking for a client, looking for new clients, I'm not talking about the ones who you've got, but but when you're looking for new customers, what promise can you give them that changes their current behavior to come over to you, and how can you prove it? Where are you on the uncopyable scale? The way I like to do it, to get, one of the ways I like to start, again, is I take a look at how I compare to the competition. So what I'll do is I'll take a piece of paper, I will draw a, like this with two sides. And then on my side, I will write down, okay, we do this, we offer this, we do this, we have this, we have this, we have this. Then I'll go over to the other side for my competition, and I'll go, they do this and this and this and this and this. Then I go back through the list and I say, oh, okay, well, yeah, we do this, and that's what they do. It's the same exact thing there. And this are also the same thing. This is the same thing. This is the same thing as that. This is the same thing as that. And this other thing is also similar to something else. And so then I'm left with, then I say, okay, so I've got this, I've got this. How can is it possible for me to use those to create an uncopyable advantage over the competition? And I'll look over here and I'll see what they've got that I don't have. And I'll say, okay, how can I either diminish that, or how can I counteract it with something that's different? How can I flip it over to something that I can use? So that's very often like the starting point where I will go to figure out how to be different. Look, everybody else is in this box. I can pretty much slam dunk guarantee that there's a lot of playground shouting going on in there. By me, they're just trying to be louder and louder and louder. And you don't want to be in that box. You want to have your own box. You want to have an Orscheln box. Just remember what I talked about, with taking my daughter, in August of 2002. And, the thing that I'm really curious about is if I went back to the American Girl store when 20 years after I'd taken her, or 10 years after I'd taken her before, what would it be like? What would it be like? Would they still be uncopyable? And I don't know. We'll have to see. But the fact of the matter is that you can be uncopyable. You can. And I'm going to leave you with this. as we get ready to open this up to Q&A. But I'm going to leave you with my all-time favorite quote. It was in my book. I have to share this with you. And that is from Frank Perdue of Perdue Farms, who sold, as you can imagine, if you can differentiate a dead chicken, you can differentiate anything. You can differentiate anything. So thank you very much for joining me today. And let's open it up to questions. And here we are. I'm going to.
Hey, Steve, I get the chat room open. So can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
I can't see you. Turn your.
Okay, there you go. There's Doug.
Hey, Doug, nice to see you again. I missed you, man.
Yeah, me too. So, thank you very much, Steve. So I'm going to open it up to questions. And what do you guys think? How can we be uncopyable? Any ideas? Comments?
No questions.
Well, in past years, I guess we've had this session, and I think one of the things when we've done SWOT analysis and stuff like that, we've always.
Can you hear? Come up here, Steve. Hey, Justin, come up here, please. Need to get close to the mic. We got a good question for you. It's in the back of the room, though.
It's not really a question, but I'd said in past years when we've had this session, we've done like SWOT analyses, if that's a word. And we've said that customer service is one of our greatest strengths. But looking at the presentation and kind of the branding promise, we don't really have a branding promise. So it's not so much a question for Steve, but maybe a question for everyone. What do we think is our promise?
What would be the best way to create a branding promise, Steve?
Well, it's what do you stand for? What do you want to deliver? What do you want to be known? And if it's something that might be a little bit nebulous, like customer service, then you have to actively look for evidence to support that you can then share and communicate with your marketplace. The interesting thing is that most companies really don't have a good branding promise. The corporate site for Orscheln, the umbrella site, they have a promise. And the promise that they say is we're in this together. You can take something like that and you say, all right, we're all in this together. When you meet with a client, a customer, when you meet with a prospect, you can say, look, we're in this together. Now, that might be a promise that you give to somebody, but then you say, now let me explain to you what that means. That means that when you place an order with us, we are going to deliver on time. If it's not going to be delivered on time, here's what we do. Or if there's some issue, here's what we are going. So you're being very, very specific to them about what that promise means. And it means, and to me, if I'm saying something like we're in this together, I'm saying your success is as important to me as my success. So that means that you're going to see and not just the examples that I gave of knowing people personally, but a lot of times our relationships with people, are kind of compartmentalized into this, into just where we fit in their world. Does that make sense? And so I try to expand my knowledge outside of my compartment with a client. What are the challenges? for example, a challenge that I hear a lot from CEOs are millennials. Are there any millennials in the audience?
Yeah, we're full of them here.
One or two.
CEOs. I'm kidding. No, but from a perspective of millennials have a different view of lifestyles and things like that. And in a lot of industries, the CEOs will say, that drives me crazy. Okay, I have nothing. I personally, that's not my bailiwick, right? But what I'll then do is my radar is up, my rabbit ears are up. And so if I come across information about that, I'm going to share it with them. I'm going to say, here's something, and that's a small example, but the idea being that I want to expand my relationship with them beyond just this compartment that I'm personally working in. Does that make sense?
Yes. Ed, do you have any comments, questions? Ed is our director of marketing. So
two thoughts come to mind. Bo started a video project.
Ed, you're on that page.
Yes.
You're the one with the wires around you.
Come around and show yourself.
No, I'm the one with the dog in the picture.
Further down.
Oh, yes.
And Tiffany back here has her hair up in the air with gel with the electricity. And then Matthew is the one with the wires. Anyway, when we went to do a video of Orscheln, Bo started it. I kind of finished the project. And it has Mr. Bob Orscheln, who's back in the room, Bob, introducing the company. We call it Our Story.
It's a good story. Good job, Bob.
When that was finished, I had a talk with Bo. I said, that's a really cool thing. That's our story. We need to do a new jazzy, cool thing about technology and all that. And then I read the Uncopyable book, and the light bulb went off, and I thought, everybody does that. Like, are you going to be impressed with a new, high school kids, you are one, can do that. We're a college kid now. And I thought, that is unique about us. We're a third-generation family company. And Satya, where you at, Satya? Satya and I traveled around India for a bunch of years, talking to people at companies that have no clue who the heck Orscheln is. Who are you? How long have you been here in India, right? And what do I say everywhere I go? We're a third-generation family company. We've been around for 70 years. That suggests we're going to be around for another 70. Okay, that's it. That's just a thought.
But you bring up a really good point, because you can take that and really build on something like that. Bob, I thought the video was really well done, you're telling a story that we are a family-run business. The personal side is important, right? And even that statement on the, like I said, that we're in this together. That's kind of a family type of discussion. So, if you connect with your clients with a little more of less corporate, but more things like that. The history is interesting to look at. You just mentioned you traveled through India. Where are those pictures of us traveling through India, and pictures with your prospects and clients and people that you meet? Where are those? Because it's in the end, it's all people doing business with people. I think B2B is almost a bad term, because ultimately we are doing business with people, and the more we can connect with them as people, I think the more that they appreciate that. They don't feel like you're some. If I look at looking at Orscheln, I'm looking at it going, until I started, planning for this webinar, I thought you guys were the company, right? Well, you're a company inside a company, and that other company has a lot of stuff. You got a lot of other things going on. So then I'm thinking, wow, they're like a big corporation. You don't want to be seen like that. You want to be seen, so when I watched Bob's video, that brought it back down more to I can connect, and so, a lot of what I talk about in the book and what I showed you here, it's the way you're connecting with people, personally. You're blocking Doug.
Any other comments, guys? Wayne?
I agree with the position that, these solving.
Can you hear?
solutions Or working.
Come up here. Come up here.
I agree with the proposition that, business is basically working with people. And we do inspired solutions. We're doing solutions for customers for their applications and the like. But how do we get over the churn that's built into the system, like at Packard? How many purchasing agents have you had to deal with at Packard? Where'd Bo?
Bo's not here, so
Oh.
we deal with 4 at any given time, between 4 and 6.
But I think Bo's also stated that in the, let's just say, 4 years that he's been working with Packard, he's had maybe 10 different commodities.
Yeah, it's really,
So how do we
sometimes it's,
expand our contact beyond that level so that when this person changes, Bob, we do that with John Adamy because he knows everything. But where else do we do that? How do we?
yeah, it's getting
those
harder and
personal
harder
relationships?
to establish those personal relationships because of, the churn in the industry. And in our industry, it's intentional, like Doug said, because they don't want you to get attached to them,
Packard has a policy, every 18 months, they change their commodity managers.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
this policy.
Well, I don't think they really wait that long. I think here a lot of times it's a year, and they cycle them through, and other companies even faster. Jeff's people at Oshkosh, it's not Oshkosh's intent, but they're so ruthless to their people. They burn them out so fast. Sometimes it's a month or two, and sometimes they last for 6 months or a year, and they're gone. Either they're looking for a new job outside the company, or they transfer to something else. They can't take the pressure. And with that comes no relationship. I have no time for it. And you also get into a scenario where the person doing that commodity management, they don't even know what it is. It's a number. I don't know. I know I'm paying this for it right now, and I got to have it now. And if you can take that pain away, I'm a happy camper. I got a lot of other things to do. But that number they throw up there, it's so grossly unrealistic. It's wow.
Right.
Tough to believe.
Yeah, to be sure, this can be very difficult because, you're not alone in facing churn like you're talking about and people getting rolled through. And like I say, and it's not easy. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work, but I'm going to tell you, like if I were trying to sell to you guys, you know who I'd be trying to make a relationship with? He's sitting in the back of the room.
Doug? Bob Orscheln.
Yeah. Now, it might not be easy, but I'm going to do whatever I can to move at least my connection higher. Not so much to influence a decision-making situation, other than the fact that they know who I am. They understand what I represent. Because when there is churn, well, a new person comes in. I'm pretty sure that when a new person comes into whoever it is that you're dealing with, somebody else is saying to them, Orscheln is like this. Oops, did I lose you? Oh, there you are. In most cases, maybe not all cases. In most cases, somebody's saying to them, okay, here's who here's who you're going to be dealing with, and here's Orscheln, and here's so and so, and here's so and so, and they will make a comment about them, and set them up, for that, and then in addition to that, yeah, you might have a short term with somebody. But you just got to do that. I mean, I'm always going to try to push my relationship up as high as possible. And
we always talk about selling higher and wider in the organization. So, in our business, you just can't be calling on the purchasing agent. You're dead in the water. Usually, the best thing you can do is try to avoid the purchasing agent and have deal with the decision makers that are speccing the products and things like that, and try to sell as high and wide as you can, so that you can help influence that decision on the purchasing agent,
Yeah. You might have a purchasing agent, but that's one person. Then you have a decision maker. You have somebody who's writing the checks. Now there might be actually three or four different types of people who ultimately can influence a decision. And if my relationship is with the very bottom person, who is a purchasing agent, then I'm going to be very limited in, the relationship that I can have with that person, because their job is not to have a relationship. So I will try to push it up. I would make it part of my strategic plan that, how do you connect with higher level people? And what can you do? See, that would be a great brainstorming meeting, is to just talk about, all right, what can Orscheln do to connect higher? And, what are the types of things that you can do? Can you do, events that are for, higher level? We tend to get these blinders on as to what we can do with people and what our relationship is with people. But what if Orscheln created a conference, that was for, and I'll just throw out CEOs, right? I mean, you're not going to get the CEO of PACCAR, but I'm just saying, for a higher level person, but it's an Orscheln conference, and these people are all invited to come to this, and no charge or anything like that. And I mean, what the heck? I was doing some work with Emerson Electric a few years ago, and they put on a conference for their top 20 top 20 customers, and they paid for everything. They flew them all into Orlando, and for 2 days, in the mornings, I spoke to them in the mornings, both days, on business, on marketing and strategy and stuff like that, and then the afternoons, they played golf and they had a good time. But the whole purpose of it was that they were getting their relationships with these people that were up a little bit higher. So, and that's just an example. That's just one example. I mean, you can brainstorm and come up with all kinds of stuff. But I think that would be a very, very good exercise to work hard on, and just say, you really need to do this to push that relationship up higher.
Good points. Any other comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is Bob still there?
Yeah.
Does Bob have any?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bob's here.
What does he do? What does he do for fun? Golfing? Fishing?
I like to do both of those.
He likes to golf and fish. Boating.
Is that bad?
All right. I am going to send this golf ball.
Say that again.
I'm going to send this golf ball to Bob. See the number on that?
58.
58. This golf ball is a limited edition golf ball produced by Callaway to commemorate Jim Furyk's 58, lowest score ever in the PGA Tour. Would you like to have that ball?
Yeah. He said he might lose it.
Just one more round of ammo for a round of golf.
Yeah, I now have two pieces of information about Bob that I can communicate with him about.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah. Okay.
What other questions?
Anything else?
Aaron, ask Steve if he owns a boat.
Steve, do you?
I lost you.
Steve, do you own a boat?
I do not own a boat. I'm a sailor, but I know the two best days in a boat owner's life.
Well, thanks a lot so much for your time, and if we could keep you for another hour, we would, but we have some other things to do, and I think everyone learned very much a lot today with you, and so you're always in our meetings, if not live. We're talking about you through your book.
Well, thank you very much. I'm deeply honored that you decided to share that with me there, and appreciate it a lot. Any questions that you have, any of you, feel free to give them all my email. Aaron. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have at any time.
Okay.
Appreciate and thank you very much for letting me join you today.
Okay. I'll give Steve a standing ovation.
That's a sitting ovation.
It's been a long day. Okay, bye. Say hey to Kay. Bye.
I will do that. Bye.